Welcome to Amy's Table. Today I'm talking with Brian Douglas, a legendary Cincinnati radio personality who spent nearly 3 decades at the center of the city's music scene before reinventing himself as a Hollywood still photographer. We're exploring creativity, career pivots, memorable moments in entertainment, and what it takes to keep evolving through every chapter of life. If you've ever wondered whether it's too late to pursue a new dream, this conversation is for you. This is Amy's Table. Pull up a seat. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad you're here. I can't wait to talk about all of your amazing accolades and achievements and that career of yours.
I'm thankful.
28 years on the mic at Q.
Yeah.
I mean, you were the center of the music scene in this area and culture and all that was going on. What did that feel like, and how does it feel not to be on the mic anymore?
Yeah, those 28 years were some of the best years of my life. I have nothing but great memories of Q102. It was a station I grew up listening to, and then all of a sudden I'm there and I start, and I would never have guessed. No one stays anywhere for 28 years. Yeah. Very few people. Duke Hamilton from B105, God rest his soul. He was at B105 for 30 some years. Gary Burbank, I'm sure, did that at LW.
Yeah.
But I had, dreams and hopes. But if I had set out at the beginning and said, I hope to do this, because I was infatuated with radio when I was a kid. I couldn't even dreamed of all the great things that came my way. Now, I worked hard. I worked really hard.
Yeah.
People think that you walk into a radio station and you sit around and you drink coffee and chat for a little bit and go home. It's a 24-hour day job. Now, am I complaining? No.
Right.
Because I'm a big believer in, I've had 2 dream careers. I'm a big believer in if you're not happy, do something else. Make yourself happy. Now, we have to pay the bills. I get that. But life is really short. And I'm getting off topic, but Q102 was an amazing job. I worked with amazing people. There's still great people there, amazing people.
They do.
And I'm very thankful for those years.
Well, you said people think you walk in and drink coffee. Probably the beginning of your career, they were walking in and doing some wilder stuff. I used to think of the DJs when I was growing up in Detroit. I don't know if the name Arthur Pentel.
Oh, sure.
I can't even, I was about to try and imitate it. Yeah. I think he was partying in the studio.
There were beers in the studio early days, for sure.
Yeah, and they were kind of wild and dangerous, I thought.
Well, that's, and part of it's theater of the mind. But for sure, the world has evolved as well. A lot has changed in those years. But there were beers in the studio. I'm sure there's still beers sometimes in the studio. But
when I used to do my show live on Sunday mornings, I would go in and occasionally there would be beers in the studio from the night before.
Oh, good. It was a night, so it wasn't me. It was somebody else.
and it was Sunday mornings.
And you always did such a great job with Amy's Table.
Oh, well, thank you.
You really, really do.
Thank you. A lot different than what you were doing, though. You were doing music and rock and roll and all the culture. And, we talk about how radio has changed, but were there some moments that'll just stick out in your mind forever? Sort of had to be there moments of radio in your career.
Too many. I could sit here and bore you for days. And sometimes I talk with friends and I go, shut up. Because, or people will say, man, you lived a fun life. And I have. I've been blessed. I've been tremendous. And I've worked really hard. I always want to throw that caveat. You have to work hard to succeed.
Yeah.
But I think with passion, you can do anything. And I had tremendous passion for music and still do. That's the biggest thing I miss about it all.
Well, you were really good about identifying what was going to be a hot song or a hot artist. Did that come naturally to you, or were you researching, or how?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot. And not so much looking at what other people thought, but I grew up, my father had music on in the house all the time, whether it was Johnny Cash or Merle Haggard or beach music or gospel music, whatever it was. But I grew up in a musical household as far as listening. And loved music as a kid, but I had a good run. I was a music director at the radio station, which meant myself, Patty, Grover, there was 3 of us that sat down and decided, what songs to play. And in corporate America, and thank God I never had to work at one of those radio stations, they go, here's what you're gonna play this week. And it comes down from 3 old dudes sitting in a tower somewhere. And instead of living, breathing in that city, Q102 has always been locally programmed. It's never been somebody from another city. It doesn't know anything about the people of Cincinnati.
Right.
You know, I grew up here, and I know the people, and I don't know, we just had a really good run. And I love listening to music. I was listening to music on the way down here. You know, just I love finding something new and going, wow, and taking a chance on it back in those days.
Right.
Whether it was You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette, or Life is a Highway by Tom Cochrane, or I could go on and on about that. But hearing a song and going and getting that rush and want to run into the studio and put it on the air, that was a lot of fun. And my batting average was really good, but that's not me being cocky. I'm the furthest thing from that. But I just enjoyed that so much. I enjoyed that more than actually being on the air, finding new music. I love being on the radio.
Well, you were so good at that, too. I remember when I would come in to do, say, the morning show with Jeff and Jen or something, and I'd see you at the studio, and it was always exciting because you're larger than life. You dressed kind of like a rock star, and I was always like, there's Brian. And then I started seeing less of you, and I was like hearing, oh, Brian's on a movie set this week. Oh, and now let's talk about this pivot. You said you've had 2 great careers. The second one is not your normal next step for a DJ. Tell us about how you got into being a set photographer.
Well, yeah, I work in the film industry now. And I'd always had a camera. There's pictures of me with an old Brownie camera around my neck when I was a little kid, like 4 years old. I always was intrigued by it.
Right.
And about the last 12 years at Q102, I got a lot more serious about photography. And let me throw this out. You can have everybody's got most people have a phone. So everybody's got a camera with them at all points. So everybody's a photographer. And I'm not going to discount that. But you can have average equipment, but again, that passion or have an eye, being able to spot moments or see things differently than others, that's what separates you. So for the last 12 years at Q, I photographed music artists that were coming into town, whether it was at River Bend or whatever, and really started making more investment in that end of it. And I don't know, it just worked out. Don Cheadle came to town in 2014 to make Miles Ahead, a movie about Miles Davis, and I had been trying for honestly about 2 years, and the radio station was very aware of it. It wasn't like I had to put out the door.
Right, no.
I was working really hard
Absolutely.
to be. But I also knew at some point I wanted to try to do this. At that point, there were only 200 people in the whole entire United States doing what I do. Now, at that level. And it took about 2 years, 1.5 years, 2 years. Kristen from the Film Commission, who does a great job here, she got me in touch with Don Cheadle. I sat down with Don, and I had never been on. Well, I'd been to a few movie sets, like when Traffic was filmed here, or Carol. Carol was the last movie filmed here. I'm going way off topic. I'm sorry. Let me pick it. Where can we pick this back up?
It's okay. I really don't mind.
I do. I'm rambling now. But Kristen Irwin from the Film Commission, who does a great job here, she got me in front of Don Cheadle, and all I had was my music portfolio. I had never been on set to take still images, like the pictures you see on posters or online or what used to be print.
Right.
I met Don, and we sat down, and he looked at my work and was really kind. I owe that guy so much. He's the one that gave me my shot, Don Cheadle, on the film with he and Ewan McGregor called Miles Ahead.
That shot of him as Miles Davis looking down, holding the horn, is so iconic.
Oh,
I mean,
thank
I
you.
feel like that's got to be really something to know you've taken a photo that is sort of part of the greater culture.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. We shot that in that was my first day on set. It was June 26, 2014. And it was at Lightborn Studios, right down here over the Rhine. And I remember walking and going, okay, God, I'm here. I hope I can do this.
Yeah.
Because I shot him in a closet almost, a small dressing room. I was in the hallway when I shot that picture. But he came in, and I had met him before, like I said, as Don Cheadle, and he walked in that day, and he was Miles. He talked like him, acted like him, and he's such a sweet guy. But we shot those photos, and after about the first 3, now I shoot where they can see on a monitor what I'm shooting. Back then, I didn't know to do that. And so I saw through the camera what I thought looked to be really good, or I was really happy with it. How's that? And I said, hey, do you want to see a couple of these? And he goes, yeah, like Miles would. And he came over and looked at it. He got the biggest grin on his face and just shook his head and was grinning and said some very nice things to me. But we shot probably, I don't know, 15 minutes. A lot of times you get like 5 minutes for those kind of shoots, honestly.
15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
How much of a pivot was it for you to go from being a DJ who was photographing the rock stars that he knew of and live and all the action to a posed? That is a big pivot, isn't it?
It's studio lighting, everything, like what you're doing here.
Right.
The lighting, I mean, it's a much different animal. Now, I had been working toward that for a couple of years as well, learning about light and, what's most flattering, what are you trying to capture, the dynamics, your dramatics, whatever. And honestly, I had it all set up with his double. The double is someone that stands in for the actor to get the light right, so they can be off working on their lines or whatever. I had it all set up. In about 5 minutes before he walked in, they go, we got this idea, we want to do this. And I'm like, totally different than the way I had it lit. And there wasn't really enough room in the space to light it like that. And I always have this attitude, nothing's impossible. I said, I don't have it set up that way, but you know what? Give me 5 minutes, I'll be ready. And he walked in and it was magical. And out of that 15 minutes, we probably had 35 or 40 keepers.
Wow.
And that's because of Don. He looks like $1 million. He looked like Miles. He did an amazing job in that movie. If people haven't seen it, it's miles ahead. He and Ewan McGregor. But, it was the look, it was the word. There's so many people involved with that. It's makeup, it's hair, it's costumes.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot more than just the photographer.
What a great out of the gate thing that you did, though. Come on. I mean, luck and preparation and hustle and hard work and all of that, and knowing this is your dream and going for it. It's so cool. And now you have photographed so many people on so many movies and, of course, left your radio career behind. Before we go further into the photography, though, when you announced that you were leaving, people showed up for you. And I know you're too humble to say who, but tell a little bit about all the people that called in and contacted you on your last show.
It was, that was a really emotional thing for me. I mean, I get a little choked up thinking about it now because it was a big part of my life. My kids grew up in the radio station. And my youngest is 30 now in LA. She's a costumer. My middle child is in a band, lives in Chicago, getting ready to travel the world. And my oldest is based out of Columbus and doing really well. But they grew up. I mean, and I'm proud of all three of my kids, what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But they grew up in the radio station. Some of the best years of my life were in that place. And this was my family, the people that I worked with. But I don't know, I don't want to go on. A lot of people from the 28 years called in. Everybody from, I don't want to, I mean, it's just a lot of
a few of
No,
them.
like John Legend, Kiefer Sutherland called. I think Nick Lachey called. They had a Cincinnati Proud, Nick called. I don't know, there was a lot of people.
I just remember not only was it an amazing day of radio, listening to all these people call and say such amazing things to you. It was emotional for everybody listening too, because you were a part of, not only did your kids grow up in the radio, but let's face it, a lot of people in this city grew up with you on the radio. So it was like, wow.
It was a wild day.
Yeah, it had to have felt good.
Oh, I was very thankful. I didn't want to do it, to be honest with you. Patty, my boss.
She knew it'd be good radio.
That's exactly it.
She's a smarty.
Yes, she's brilliant. But I didn't want to do it because I said, I don't want to make this a big deal. I just want to thank people and fade off. And she goes, no. And in hindsight, I'm thankful that it happened, but it was not a comfortable thing either, though.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, you're a humble guy, but it was amazing.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. My kids called in, and I don't know. I'm thankful. Like I said, I'm just so grateful,
Yeah.
And I know how blessed I am to have had those years
For
there.
sure.
Yeah.
But so you jump right out of this really successful career
Uh-huh.
here into, boom, Miles Davis, iconic photo. And where do you go from there? You have photographed so many people, and that's what I want to talk about
Okay.
now. Some of the shows and movies you've worked on, some of the stars that you've photographed, any insider stuff you want to share?
No, honestly, I don't have a lot of. That's another job that people might look at. And again, if I come off as complaining, I often tell people if it seems like I complain about work, either job, I should be punched square in the face. Because I honestly, I mean, I've been really blessed. Again, worked hard, but I should never complain. The hours people look at movies, and I still love watching shows. I look at them quite differently. Sort of like I'm sure you look at radio quite differently. You've seen how the soup is made or whatever.
Yeah.
So when I watch a movie or a television series, television is as good as movies now.
Oh,
The way
boy,
they're
it
filmed.
is.
I worked on this show called Tulsa King for 3 seasons, 3 years of my life. It's Stallone. And it's very cinematic. It looks like a movie every week. And there's so many shows like that.
How is he to photograph?
He is very easy to work with as far as there's some actors, I don't know if you've ever heard the word eyeline. In other words, what happens, say we're shooting you and it's your shot, there are really only a handful of people around that camera because it can be distracting. I don't know how actors do what they do. They got to remember the lines, deliver them in a believable fashion, but the part some people might not know, they have to walk to a very specific mark on the floor. Why you don't see the floors rarely in movies?
Right.
There's a piece of tape on the floor that they have to walk to without looking down, and once in a while I'll see it and I go, oh, hitting their mark. But they have to walk to that so that the camera can focus. They also have to, so eyeline is basically, it depends on the shoot. Always at least 2 cameras. Sometimes on these action movies, I'm sure there's 15 cameras. But if it's an intimate scene, it's a camera operator, a person with a boom pole, and me. And you have to be careful. I become a statue. Once they say action, I don't move.
Because you don't want them accidentally looking up at you or...
Distracting them. Because again, I don't know how they do what they do. I couldn't do it in a million years.
No way. And hitting the mark and not looking at you and oh my gosh, and being in character.
So when you see somebody deliver a performance, that's a truly talented individual. And it can be a no-name that you don't know yet, that 20 years from now and might be a household name. I mean, when they filmed Rocky 50 years ago, people, would see, I'm sure, Sly Stallone on the streets and, think he's a handsome guy, but not think twice about it.
Right.
And now he can't go anywhere worldwide without being recognized.
Right. Oh no, he's for sure one of the most famous.
But he, I've worked with Samuel L. Jackson.
Love him.
You know what? And he did not disappoint. I was so hoping, and I don't want to make it seem like you become best friends with people, but I was so hoping he was what I thought he was, because he's one of my favorite actors of all time. He was over the top cool and so nice and so easy to be around and work with. Tom Hanks is that way. Hanks, I worked on a movie. I shot a lot of photos for a movie, the Mr. Rogers movie.
Yes, I saw those. Those are great.
Thank you. And Tom Hanks you expect him to be nice. I don't know. He was 1,000 times nicer than I anticipated. I mean, for being another iconic actor, can go nowhere without people knowing him.
Right.
His voice or his face.
It's funny. I think you and I talked about this once before, but there was a woman that I admired in the food industry, Lynn Rossetto Kasper. Okay. She was a host on PBS Radio, and she's written many books, won many awards. And when I met her, I said, "Oh my gosh, you are so darling and dear."
Oh.
And she said, "Wait, what else should I be?" Basically. Just because you're famous, well, of course you've got stuff going on and there are challenges. Come on, to quote you, they're blessed. Knock off the behavior.
Absolutely.
It's sort of like, I don't know, you hope they're all going to be decent people, but...
And everybody has a bad day.
Right.
But if you're working on a show for 4 or 5 months, or even a movie, if you do a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever you're doing, you get to know people. You get to know them, what they're like at work.
Right.
Now, when they're not having to remember lines, hit marks, and deal with people fussing with them all the time. I mean, what you don't see as well is when they go cut after one take, like David Fincher, who's one of the greatest directors on the planet, is notorious for doing 20, 30, 40 plus takes of the same scene. It could be one line, but he is a genius, and I hate to use that word because there's very few of them, I think. But you don't see when they go, you cut, their makeup, hair, costumes, wardrobe people running in to fidget with them to get them back to exact.
So, and then he's got to remain in character.
And he's got to be right there and jump right back into it. But sometimes they'll do what they call a series. In other words, nobody steps in. They're going to do 2 or 3 takes in a row without stopping. In other words, they'll do that. The other thing to watch, unless it's Quentin Tarantino movie, which goes on, scenes are very long, very wordy. He's one of my favorites. But most scenes, there's not as much dialogue in a particular scene as you'd think. You know, they may have X amount of lines. Tarantino, it's a book, they have to remember. But they'll do a series, is what I'm trying to say. But the in-between and all the fussing around, how they do it, I'm still just like...
amazed.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have a memory or two that stand out that are maybe the most surreal or funny or strange, or we'd all be shocked as lay people to know happened on a movie set?
Oh, gosh, no. That I could say, no. There's things like...
okay, when
you've heard
we
the
cut,
word,
you can tell me
no,
everything.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. But you know, you've heard of NDAs,
yeah,
non-disclosure agreements. But no, no, it's just the kindness sometimes of people. Like there was a crew member I was working, and this was a Hallmark movie many years ago. I did a movie with Kristen Chenoweth, who's a big Broadway star, and
big Broadway star,
tiny with a huge voice.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know, 4'10", 4'11", or something.
She's a little tiny
but
woman.
One of the kindest people you've ever met in your life. And a crew member tripped and fell hard after a take, or no, it was while we were filming, but they had moved and fell. She stopped everything she did. She went over and literally prayed for the guy. And it's just like the kindness you see from people. And then other times you'll see them get upset. Who doesn't?
Right.
We all have stressful moments in our life.
Right.
So like I said, everybody has a bad day.
Right.
And you just know, do your job, keep your head down, do your thing. But I've been really lucky to work with some great people who are just real pros. And there is a difference.
You know, they talk about movie magic.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've been on sets and seen movies being made, what's some of the stuff that contributes to the magic? Is it all in the editing room? Is it in the sound? Is it the way it comes together? I mean, movies are magic.
Truly, but I think it's everything from the girl or guy who sits down and starts with a keyboard and putting the words together that they're going to say. And that changes on set. A lot of times they'll do rewrites, or the actor will go, what if we did it like this, or whatever. But it starts with that person, or whoever came up with the idea, the germ of an idea, to the person who finally goes, okay, that's it. You know, there are some people who are a lot more important in that process, but there are hundreds of people that touch that project before you see it.
Right.
It may be a movie where there's 2 main characters, but there are hundreds, maybe even thousands. On those big action movies, there are thousands of people.
Yeah, there's some magic.
Yeah, and those are not my favorite kind of things to work on. I've worked on some blue screen, green screen stuff because, I don't know, visually for me, it's not the same because there's no background there. It's put in.
Right.
But no, it's just, it's everything from the writer till the end of the thing. And there's so many talented people that you'll never know them, but they work really hard and dedicate their lives to making these amazing movies and television shows. I still am in awe every time, and I don't want to sound like an awe, but every time I walk on a set, I'm grateful. It's like they told me early on, I never forget, like I was doing it for like 2 years, and I still had a smile on my face when I came to work and was excited to be there. And they said, you'll get jaded. You know, at some point this will get old to you. I'm 12 years plus in, and I still get excited when I go on set and take my cameras and put it up to my face and look through the lens and try to capture a moment. Because it literally is about capturing one of my mentors, and then I'll stop this rant. One of my mentors, a guy that's shot some really big movies and worked on The Sopranos and did Goodfellas, much other things, Barry Wetcher, said, there's one moment in every scene, and it can be a split second, that tells the entire story of that scene. And that's what my job is to capture that moment that tells a story. It's more, because I could just sit and go, you know.
Right, but that's oh man,
So I'm always
you are
looking for moments.
distilling it all right there. That's amazing. That makes you a bit of a editor and I mean, all at once. You know, Brian, you've done this major pivot, 2 really successful, wonderful careers that speak to your passions. So you're living proof that you've got the stories to tell, that your work still excites you after all these years. What do you think stops people? And what would you say to people to not be stopped when they have a dream that they should be following?
Someone told me a long time ago, we're only afraid of what we don't know. You know, you're afraid of the boogeyman, or you're afraid of this or that. And at 55 years old, I walked away from my dream job and said, you know what? My youngest had went away to college on the West Coast. And I'm like, I want to do something different. And I knew I wanted it. And I have not looked back and went, why? What did I do? I think you got to just go for it. If you have a dream in your heart, I'm not trying to be pie in the sky, but if you have a dream in your heart, you don't have a plan B. and you got to pay the bills. I always fall back on that. But if you truly go, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. Now you may have a side hustle or something, whatever it is. But if you know your goal is to be a filmmaker, a homemaker, astronaut, whatever it is, that's what I want. And if you have the passion within you and the desire, you can do anything. I believe that. Now, there are limitations, physical limitations and things. Like I was never going to be a guy who could throw a baseball 100 miles an hour, as much as I love baseball.
Right.
But I had a dream about working with radio. I didn't know exactly what, and I did it. And I worked with some amazing people. And then I had this other dream. And the photography thing with all the music artists, and I started working with artists. That was a little dream side hustle. But I never gave up on that, and I won't. You know, I'm at a point in my life now where I'm going to start doing less. And then, you know, just, I would just say, you know, you got to just take in life too. There are moments on set where I'm not like just shooting, you know, like, because we could shoot 40 frames a second if we wanted to. There are times when I just am looking through the lens, taking it in and looking for that moment. You know, I may only take a handful of shots during an entire scene. There are other times, if it's an action sequence, you may take a lot of pictures. But I'm getting off topic again, but just, if you have a desire, don't let anyone discourage you. You know, when I talk to PAs, you know, young kids on the set getting into the industry, and I always go up to them and I go, hey, what's your dream? What's your end game? What do you want to do? And a lot of them will know, I want to be a director, or I want to be a writer, or I'm not sure, you know, but they're there where they can see everybody's jobs, and it's a great place to be. And I always just tell them, don't let anybody talk you out of your dreams. Don't let anybody. I would say that no matter what your dream is. If you don't even have a dream, just kind of think like, what would make me happier? What could I do that I would look forward to when I lay down at night? I can't hardly sleep because I can't wait to get to work.
Right.
And that's not every day, even in a dream world. But just don't let anybody talk you out of it. You got to have passion, and you just go for it. It'll happen. You know, I'm living proof of that. Leaving a job that people thought I was insane for leaving. And I appreciated that, but I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I knew it would be lean for the first couple of years. So you build a portfolio resume. But now looking back, I'm just as happy doing what I was then as I am now.
Yeah.
I'm truly blessed.
I like when you said don't have a plan B. You know, they say don't burn bridges, but sometimes burning that bridge is the only way. You make sure you have no way back, right? You just got to keep going forward.
Right.
And I feel like we speak in fine print. Of course, we're talking pay your bills, be responsible, blah, blah, blah.
You have
but at the
to
same
survive.
time, go for it. I couldn't agree more. Well, Brian, so do you have any daily rituals or things that you do that kind of keep you centered, sane, and calm in your life?
Oh, my girlfriend would tell you I drive her crazy with lists. You know, I'm a planner. You know, I mean, I'm good with pivoting. obviously.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. At this point in my life, I just got into cycling again for the first time. Nothing crazy, but I bought a really nice bike, and I'm doing like the bike trail, and that takes my mind off of things. I don't know. I just try to. I'm always looking though, even though like my next movie is probably not going to be for another month or so. Always trying to learn. I never have stopped that. Because if you do, you might as well quit.
Right, exactly.
Just get out. If you think, oh, I'm here.
I know everything.
Guess what? You don't. Because technology is changing every day.
Yeah.
And I love technology. But if you ever get to the point where you think you know it all, you're done. You're toast. So I don't know. Just don't be afraid. You can have a little anxiety maybe, and that's not even the right word.
Caution?
Yeah, a little caution. Be able to cover yourself, but keep your head down. Rob Thomas and Matchbox 20, we did a meet and greet thing with him, with listeners when I was at Q102 out at Riverbend, and someone asked him, they said, hey, I want to do what you do. You got any advice? He goes, don't have a plan B. And that's where I stole that from, to be honest with you. I give him total credit. And that was a guy that I think was living in his car at one point in his life, and now, lives in penthouses, and he's a sweetheart of a guy too. But he didn't have another thing. This is what he wanted.
Yeah.
Musicians are a lot like that. A lot of and actors too. They starve, and then, when they make it, they make it. But they love coming to work. Most of them.
Right. Passion fuels it all. Well, do me a favor. Fill in the blank. The older I get, the more I realize.
Oh. The older I get, the more I realize. I don't know. Gratitude should be a daily ritual. Being thankful for everything. Life is very short. Enjoy it. And I have to tell myself, sometimes slow down and just look around and take it in. Because you get so focused and you get, just gratitude on a daily basis. Thank people. Handwrite a note once in a while. No one does that anymore. Yeah. And I'm not trying to sound like old man, get off my lawn, but these are things that I have used that actually have come back to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just very thankful and enjoy life. Enjoy life. I mean, every day, good or bad, and even the bad days, learn something from it. I'm sorry, I couldn't do better. That's what's
that
off top
was
of
so
mind.
good. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you.
Really do. That was amazing. So people might want to see all your beautiful photographs. They can go to bdstills.com.
Yeah, bdstills.com, or I'm also on Instagram, where I'm doing, actually right now I'm doing some work with Riverbend, working with Rosemary and the folks out there, great folks out there, shooting concerts for them.
Yes, I follow you on all the social channels and watch all of your cool things you're doing. It's great.
But the Instagram is Brian Douglas Stills, and there's photos from life. There's just, I'm not that interesting.
Oh, yes, you are.
I love, I'm thankful. I'm very thankful. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Brian. It was
Good seeing
a
you again.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today, and thanks to our sponsors, too. Wow Window Boxes, High Street, and Jenny Simon Face. Please subscribe to Amy's Table and share this conversation with a friend. Follow along for more inspiration, gatherings, and everyday ideas from our community. Until next time, keep looking for the good, keep making room for connection, and remember, there's always a seat for you at Amy's Table.